What's up, everyone? This is author Jenny Marie, and I am back with another Get Live Friday session. And today I'm going to be discussing character arc. So, character arc meaning, because I have the definition for you within my notes. Character arc is the transformation or inner journey of a character over the course of a story. If a story has a character arc, the character begins as one sort of way at the beginning of the story, and gradually, as the story goes on, transforms into a different person in response to the different events and circumstances that develop within the story. So that right there is what character arc is. And I'm going to today I'm going to discuss positive and negative story arc, give a couple of examples from some movies, and the first thing I want to talk about is the stages of character arc in a story. Okay, so first, the problem. Your character is going to have a problem or situation that they're going to go through. So first, if you can see, so in this arc, there'll be a problem or situation that they first go through. So it could be a number of things. That's why I'm going to get to the movie examples in a moment. So you got a problem, situation, and once the story goes on, halfway through, they reach a turning point in the film that kind of makes them kind of rethink things, possibly. And then you get towards the end, and there's either a breakthrough or a breakdown based on your character and the plot, or whether they're the protagonist, antagonist, things like that. Number two, the loss and despair. They begin to find a path sometimes. So this is a halfway point. So the first point in your character arc, you're gonna have your because let's say in films, most time in films, it's like the first 30 minutes is where they build up the premise. So your character is going through a situation. There's something happening that's preventing them, stopping them. And this could also be internally or externally. Sometimes it's a problem in their mind. So say, for example, your character is kind of not so confident, and they want to. So, for example, a great example. Okay, in the film Moving Day with the late Charlie Murphy and Kevin Lasso, I believe. So in the beginning, we see Kevin Lasso as this kind of insecure underachiever who's working at this moving company, and he wants better for himself. He knows, like, okay, I want better for myself, I want more for myself, and he sees that he wants to become, the problem is in his mind. He's like, I want better for myself. So he's fighting like himself, because he's like, because he can either go for it, or he could just accept things for what it is. So that internal battle, that's the setup. He's fighting this kind of like internal battle in his mind. And while Charlie Murphy is saying like, hey, if you want, more for yourself, you have to just go after it, so because he sees like, I want to work for the city, he's like, the people that work for the city, they get benefits, they get much better pay, I'm not breaking my back moving his furniture. So that's a great example of a character arc, okay, because you get halfway through with all the drama and the madness that's going on within the film. He realizes, and especially I think once Charlie Murphy's character leaves and moves on to get better for himself, he's like saying, okay, well, if my best friend can move on and get better for himself, then hey, I can do the same thing too, because I know that I don't want to stay at this job and doing these things, like, lifting all this heavy furniture. That's not what I want to do. My boss doesn't even respect me, because his boss didn't even respect him. If you've seen the film, it's a really great film. And and then he has his co-workers that are telling him, you can't work for the city, so he's fighting that. And then he's this turning point halfway through the film, once the tragic, he realizes his boss has fraudulent insurance. So he realizes, like, hey, I can't keep living like this. He realizes, like, I can't keep living like this. That's not, so once we get towards the end of the film, he realizes that he no longer is fighting the internal battle that's inside his mind. He actually goes for it, and he, because Charlie helps him, he puts in a good word for him, and Kevin Lasso's character gets that job with the city. So, and he's a lot happier. So that character arc where he goes from being a weak, insecure, underachiever, and then towards the end of the story, he is now confident. He's much happier. He can spend more time with his children. So that is a great example of a character arc, because it's in a positive character arc, because he goes from being weak to being kind of unhappy and fighting the internal battle in his mind, and then he goes from realizing that he wants better for himself, and he's not going to keep listening to the negativity that's around him, and then just accepting life for what it is. So at that point, he realizes, like, I want more for myself. So at that very end, we see him do that 180. That's kind of what it is. Your character most of the time will do a 180, and like I said, you go from being that weak underachiever that wasn't happy to being happy, successful, and more fulfilled in life. So that's a great example of a positive character arc. And to give you another example of a positive character arc, if I'm pretty sure you are familiar with this film. It is very, very, very popular. It's an old film, the Scrooge film by Charles Dickens, that is played almost every year during Christmas. So Ebenezer Scrooge is someone that is selfish, he's prideful, he's greedy, he's a miser, he's very mean to people, so that's how he starts off. He's very, his character description, you see him very mean, and no one likes him because he's he's a mean old grumpy old man, but once he gets visited by the three spirits from the past, present, and the future, and they show him, if you continue on with your ways, this is how your life is going to turn out. So once he gets visited by those spirits, he reaches that turning point that says, oh my God, I can't keep living my life like this. I can't keep living my life this way. So that is him being visited by those spirits is the catalyst that makes him change his ways. So by the end of the story, we see Ebenezer Scrooge become a nicer person. He's he's nice to his workers. He's nice to people in the town. So that's another example of a positive arc, because we see the character who changes, does that 180, and it goes from being the mean, greedy, grumpy old man to a man who enjoys Christmas and is full of love for everybody, right? So I would say that those two films are good examples of a positive arc. Okay, so and the difference between the last example that I wanted to give, and this is just my opinion, is I would say this is probably a negative character arc storyline. Is from the movie Training Day with Denzel Washington. So in the film we see Alonzo Harris. He is the crooked cop, but he believes that he's untouchable. He's this cop. He thinks no one can he's untouchable. No one can face him, and he's arrogant, very arrogant. He tricks his Jake, which is played by Ethan Hawke. The other Ethan Hawke plays Jake in the film. He kind of screws him around, fucks him around, and it's Jake's first day on the job, and like he says, he's running things, and he and so he starts off as like this very arrogant asshole. But even though he's in trouble with the mafia or something like that, at the end, instead of him doing a 180 and possibly changing his ways, he still thinks like he's unstoppable, he's untouchable, no one can shake him, and he knows that if he doesn't come up with the money for the people that he's in trouble with, that he's going to be killed. But he's like, oh, whatever, I could just escape town and be untouched, and I'm going to get away with everything. But as we see in the film, that doesn't happen. We all see Training Day. We know how it ends. So instead of him doing a 180, he kind of reverts back. He doesn't, this is probably what you would call a negative arc, because he doesn't learn his lesson. Like even when he has the confrontation with everyone in the city, he says King Kong ain't got nothing on me. He says I'm the shit. So he's still arrogant. He's still an asshole. So he still hasn't learned his lesson. So he still hasn't learned his lesson. So I mean, he might have had a turning point at some point. It's like, okay, instead of him thinking like, okay, let me do the right thing, it's let me get the hell out of Dodge, and it still didn't work. So yeah. Okay, so some notes that I took, and I want to give you some tips on creating a strong story character arc. Now that I've given you a few examples and some films to kind of help you see what that kind of looks like. So one is find your character's goal, or develop situations, a problem. So your character has to go through like a problem or situation, and those problems or situations do not always have to be externally. It can be internal. It can be a battle inside their mind or something, and it has to be something that kind of motivates them to change. It has to be something that motivates them to change, to want more, or to do better. Or it could be, as in we see in Training Day, something that they know that they need to do, that they should do, but they don't really, but they know it's the right thing to do, but they don't want to do it. And 3, and this would be probably like your halfway point, is they find, it's like a point of no return. Like they find that turning point, and it's like their aha moment that makes them be like, you know what, I can do this, I can do that.